2,000 years of tradition have treated the resurrection as a matter of religious dogma. However, stripping away the theology reveals a historical report defined by specific physical anomalies that defy the rules of biology. Eyewitnesses recorded a series of events that suggest a break in the laws of physics. They described a man entering rooms through locked doors, sitting down to eat with his friends, and then vanishing instantly. Most confusingly, those who knew him best often failed to recognize his face even while standing directly in front of him. This ghostly impression on the Shroud of Turin highlights a specific detail from the burial site. Historical accounts state the heavy linen wrappings were found undisturbed. The knots remained tied, and the cloth was untorn, yet the body was simply missing from the interior. A biological resuscitation, a dead heart simply starting to beat again, requires a physical escape. A revived man would have to untie the knots, push the stone, and walk through the door. The reported evidence points away from a medical miracle and toward a different physical mechanism entirely. Understanding these reports requires looking at the people who wrote them. This photograph of Cana shows the reality of first-century Galilee. These observers lived in an agrarian world, thousands of years before the development of scientific or multidimensional vocabulary. Consider a first-century peasant observing a modern smartphone. Without any concept of microchips or telecommunication, they would likely describe the device as a glowing magic mirror. The biblical witnesses faced a similar linguistic wall. They likely observed high-dimensional physics in action, but were forced to use the only three-dimensional words they had: miracle, ghost, or spirit. The events at the tomb may represent an 11-dimensional reality compressed into a three-dimensional text, a massive historical translation error preserved for millennia. These ancient descriptions find a mechanical explanation in a 19th-century thought experiment by Edwin A. Abbott. He proposed a universe called Flatland, existing entirely in two dimensions. On a two-dimensional plane, a closed square is an absolute barrier. Its interior is physically inaccessible. However, shifting to a three-dimensional perspective reveals a z-axis. A sphere can drop into that safe from above without ever touching the walls. This geometry explains the reports of Jesus entering a locked room. He did not break the door. A higher dimensional entity simply projected itself into our three-dimensional space from a direction we cannot perceive. What three-dimensional observers classify as an impossible miracle is standard geometry when viewed from a higher dimension. Dr. Kim's research frames the resurrection as a physical phase transition. Think of water rapidly transforming into steam. The physical state changes, yet the core H2O data is preserved. The form shifts and the freedom of the molecules expands, but nothing is deleted. In this model, human death follows a similar mechanism. While the biological body dissolves, our soul data, the total information of an individual's life, transitions into a state with higher degrees of physical freedom. Modern M-theory supports this, suggesting our entire three-dimensional universe is a thin membrane floating within a multi-layered 11-dimensional space called the bulk. Death represents a physical expansion into this higher dimensional reality, moving beyond the constraints of the membrane. This raises an immediate question. If this 11-dimensional space is real, why can't we develop the skills to contact it, reach the dead, or harness psychic powers? Historical attempts to force open this dimensional veil through occultism or channeling correlate with high levels of psychological anxiety and ego inflation. The human mind appears ill-equipped to handle the unfiltered data of a higher dimension. These three-dimensional limits serve as a necessary cognitive filter. Without them, the overwhelming volume of 11-dimensional information would likely collapse the psychological structures required for us to function in daily life. Obsessing over the mechanics of the afterlife or attempting to hack higher dimensions serves as a distraction. It shifts focus away from the specific purpose of our current limited existence. The purpose of this three-dimensional world is to engage in what texts call the Eden game. This woodcut symbolizes Eden as humanity's primary operating system. The game's rules are found in the command to be fruitful, multiply, and govern. In practice, this means organizing chaos, fostering growth, and protecting life through love. Every choice made in the direction of love acts as a permanent entry in the universe's electromagnetic field. We are writing the code of our personal soul data into the cosmic architecture, day by day. Because death is a phase transition, our mission is not to decipher the multiverse. It is to plant a single apple tree today, knowing things being preserved for the next dimension.